The ship called Eventide drifted through the darkness of space like a dead thing. Its engines were cold. Its lights were dim. It sent out a weak signal that said it needed help. To anyone watching, it looked like a broken human freighter waiting to die among the rocks and ice of the asteroid field. But the Eventide was not dying. It was hunting. Deep inside the ship, Captain Mira Vance sat in her command chair and watched her screens. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too much death. A long scar ran down the left side of her face, a gift from a Velkari slaver 12 years ago. She had returned that gift many times over since then. Around her, 11 crew members worked in silence. They checked weapons. They monitored sensors. They waited with the patience of people who had learned to wait. None of them spoke. They did not need to. They had done this before. Mira looked at the main screen. 3 red dots moved toward them from the far side of the asteroid field. The Velkari had taken the bait. 3 ships, said her sensor officer, a young man named Torres. 1 slave barge, 2 escort vessels. They will reach us in 20 minutes. Mira nodded. The slave barge was called the Chains of Prosperity. Inside it were 200 human beings taken from the colony world of New Meridian 3 weeks ago. Men, women, and children. Farmers and teachers and doctors. The Velkari had burned their homes, killed those who fought back, and put the rest in chains. The Velkari were a race that looked like giant crabs. They had hard shells, many legs, and claws that could cut through metal. They had been taking slaves from weaker species for over 1,000 years. The great powers of the galaxy knew about this. They did nothing. Humans were not important enough to protect, but humans protected their own. Mira touched a button on her chair. All stations report. Weapons ready, said Chen, her weapons officer. Marines ready, said Kowalski, her ground team leader. Medical bay ready, said Dr. Okonkwo. Engine room ready, said Hassan. One by one, they all reported. 12 people against 3 ships. It would have been suicide for any normal human vessel. But the Eventide was not normal. On the outside, the Eventide looked like junk. Its hull was covered in rust and old paint. Its shape was ugly and awkward. Any alien looking at it would see exactly what humans wanted them to see. A weak ship from a weak species. Easy prey. On the inside, the Eventide was something else entirely. For 300 years since humans first traveled to the stars, they had played a game. They acted weak. They bought old technology from alien traders. They let themselves be pushed around and laughed at. They let their people be taken. And while they did all this, they built things in secret. They took apart every piece of alien technology they could find and learned how it worked. Then they made it better. The Eventide carried weapons that could cut through any shield in the galaxy. Its engines could outrun anything flying. Its armor could stop weapons that should have torn it apart. And it had something no alien species knew humans possessed. A cloaking device that made it invisible to every sensor ever built. But the best weapon on the Eventide was not a gun or a bomb. It was anger. 300 years of anger, passed down from parents to children, growing hotter with each generation. Every human on this ship had lost someone to alien slavers. Every human on this ship had a reason to fight. Mira watched the red dots come closer. 15 minutes now. She thought about her daughter. Elena had been 8 years old when the Velkari took her. That was 12 years ago. Mira never found her. She never learned if Elena lived or died. That not knowing was worse than any wound. After Elena was taken, Mira left the merchant fleet and joined the Reclaimers. The Reclaimers did not officially exist. The human government said they were just stories. But the aliens who traded in human lives knew the truth. The Reclaimers were real, and they were coming for everyone who had ever hurt a human being. 10 minutes now. The Velkari commander was named Krethval. Mira had studied him for months. He was old and fat and cruel. He had been taking slaves for 60 years. He liked to hurt his captives. He thought it was funny. He had never faced any punishment because humans were too weak to punish him. Today, his education would begin. Torres spoke again. They are scanning us. They see a damaged freighter with minimal life signs. Good, said Mira. Let them see what we want them to see. She imagined Krethval on his bridge, clicking his claws together with excitement. Fresh cargo, he would be thinking. More soft humans to sell at market. Easy money. 5 minutes. The crew of the Eventide made final preparations. Marines checked their rifles one last time. Pilots strapped into their seats. Dr. Okonkwo prepared beds for the wounded. Everyone knew their job. Everyone was ready. Mira stood up from her chair. She looked around at her crew. These people were her family now. They had bled together. They had killed together. They had saved hundreds of human lives together. And today they would save 200 more. You all know why we are here, she said. 200 of our people are on that ship. They are scared. They think no one is coming for them. They think humans do not rescue their own. She paused. We are going to show them how wrong they are. The crew nodded. No cheers, no battle cries, just cold determination. 1 minute. The Velkari ships came out of the asteroid field. They were big and ugly, covered in weapons and armor. The slave barge was the largest, a long vessel with hundreds of small windows. Behind each window was a cage. Behind each cage was a human being. Torres counted down. 30 seconds. 20. 10. Mira sat back in her chair. She touched the comm button. Decloak. The Eventide changed. Hidden panels slid open. Weapons emerged from secret compartments. The ship seemed to grow larger as its true shape revealed itself. The rust and old paint flickered and disappeared, showing the dark armor beneath. On the Velkari ships, alarms began to scream. Krethoval stared at his screens with eyes that could not believe what they were seeing. The dying freighter was gone. In its place was something terrible. What is this? He whispered. Mira smiled. It was not a nice smile. This, she said to no one, is what happens when you hurt our children. The Eventide opened fire. 300 years ago, humanity discovered they were not alone in the universe. It was the year 2157 when the first alien ship appeared in Earth's sky. The whole world watched as the massive vessel descended through the clouds. People screamed and prayed and cried. Some ran. Some fought. Most just stared, unable to believe what they were seeing. The aliens called themselves the Hegemony. They were an alliance of 12 ancient species who had ruled the galaxy for longer than human civilization had existed. They had built empires while humans still lived in caves. They had traveled between stars while humans still thought the Earth was flat. The Hegemony looked at humanity and saw nothing special. Humans were small. Their planet was small. Their technology was primitive. The Hegemony had seen hundreds of species like this before. Most of them were gone now, absorbed into the greater galactic civilization or simply forgotten. A delegation of alien diplomats met with Earth's leaders. They explained how the galaxy worked. There were rules. There were territories. There were species that mattered and species that did not. Humans, they said, did not matter. But they were welcome to join the Hegemony as junior members. They could trade, they could travel, they could learn. In time, perhaps in 1,000 years, they might become important. Earth's leaders smiled and nodded and thanked the aliens for their kindness. They signed treaties. They opened trade routes. They sent their young people to alien universities to learn alien ways. And then they went home and had a very different conversation. In a secret room beneath the mountains of Switzerland, the leaders of every nation on Earth sat together. For the first time in human history, there were no arguments about borders or religion or politics. There was only one question. How do we survive? The answer came from a historian. An old woman named Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the most powerful people in the world and showed them pictures. Pictures of Native Americans meeting European explorers. Pictures of African kingdoms welcoming Portuguese traders. Pictures of Chinese emperors greeting British diplomats. Every time, Dr. Chen said, every single time in human history, when a weaker civilization met a stronger one, the weaker civilization was destroyed. Not always through war, sometimes through disease, sometimes through trade. Sometimes the weaker people simply forgot who they were and became copies of the stronger ones. She looked at the leaders around her. The Hegemony is older than we can imagine. They are stronger than we can fight. If we try to compete with them openly, we will lose. Our culture will disappear. Our identity will fade. In a few hundred years, there will be nothing left that is truly human. The room was silent. Then someone asked the obvious question. What do we do? Dr. Chen smiled. We cheat. That night, humanity made a choice. They would play the game the hegemony expected them to play. They would be the weak newcomers. They would buy technology instead of inventing it. They would bow their heads and speak softly and never ever threaten anyone. But in secret, everything would be different. Over the next 300 years, humanity built two civilizations. The one the galaxy saw was exactly what the hegemony expected. Scattered colonies, primitive ships, weak governments that could not protect their own people. Humans who were grateful for any scrap of respect the elder species offered them. The hidden civilization was something else entirely. Deep beneath human worlds, in facilities that did not appear on any map, scientists worked day and night. They took apart every piece of alien technology they could buy, steal, or find. They studied it. They understood it. And then they improved it. Human engineers discovered that hegemony technology was old. It worked well enough, but no one had tried to make it better in thousands of years. The elder species had grown comfortable. They had stopped asking questions. They had stopped pushing boundaries. Humans had not. Within 50 years, human scientists had matched hegemony technology. Within 100 years, they had surpassed it. Within 200 years, they had created things the hegemony could not imagine. But they did not reveal what they had made, not yet. The hardest part of the plan was watching their people suffer. Human colonists were attacked by pirates. Human traders were cheated by alien merchants. Human travelers were kidnapped by slavers. Earth's government sent angry letters and demanded justice. The hegemony smiled and did nothing. Every attack was recorded. Every name was remembered. Every crime was added to a list that grew longer each year. When human captives were freed by other means, they were debriefed in secret facilities. They told stories of what they had seen, the aliens who bought and sold them, the ships they were transported on, the worlds where the slave markets operated. All of this information was gathered and stored and analyzed. The humans waited. Some people did not want to wait. They wanted revenge now. They wanted to show the galaxy what humanity could really do. But the leaders held firm. It was not time. They were not ready. They needed to be stronger. They needed to be sure. And so the Reclaimers were born. The Reclaimers were a compromise. They could not reveal human technology to the galaxy. They could not start a war humanity might not win. But they could take back their people. They could punish those who thought humans were prey. The Reclaimers operated in secret. Their ships looked like civilian vessels. Their crews were ghosts who did not officially exist. When they struck, they left no survivors to describe what they had seen. For decades, slavers and pirates who targeted humans simply disappeared. The hegemony noticed but did not investigate. They did not care what happened to criminals. Captain Mira Vance joined the Reclaimers after her daughter was taken. She rose through the ranks quickly because she was smart and ruthless and willing to do whatever was necessary. She had killed more alien slavers than she could count. She had freed thousands of human captives, but she had never found Elena. Now, as the Eventide opened fire on Krethval's fleet, Mira thought about the 300 years that had led to this moment. 300 years of patience, 300 years of planning, 300 years of suffering in silence while humanity grew strong in the shadows. The galaxy thought humans were weak because that was what humans wanted them to think. Every attack, every insult, every stolen child had been fuel for the fire that burned in human hearts. The hegemony had no idea what they had created, but they were about to find out. On the Eventide screens, the first Valkyrie escort ship exploded into fragments of metal and fire. The second one tried to run. It did not get far. Only the slave barge remained, helpless and alone, its captain finally understanding that everything he thought he knew about humans was a lie. The lesson had begun. Overseer Krethval had lived for 93 years. In that time, he had commanded slave ships, raided colonies, and sold thousands of beings into bondage. He had faced pirates and bounty hunters and angry merchants. He had survived betrayals and battles and assassination attempts. He thought he had seen everything the galaxy could show him. He was wrong. The human vessel destroyed his escort ships in less than 30 seconds. Both of them, gone. The Razor Claw, with its crew of 40, became a ball of expanding fire. The Silent Hunter tried to engage its jump drive and escape. The human ship fired something Krethoval had never seen before. A beam of pure white light that cut through shields and armor like they were not there. The Silent Hunter broke apart, its pieces spinning away into the darkness. Krethoval stared at his screens. His claws clicked together in a sound that meant fear. This was not possible. Human ships could not do this. Human technology was primitive. Everyone knew this. "Return fire!" he screamed at his crew. "All weapons!" The Chains of Prosperity was not a warship, but it had guns. Dozens of them. They fired at the human vessel, filling space with energy beams and explosive projectiles. Any normal ship would have been torn apart. The human ship did not even slow down. Krethoval watched in horror as the human vessel moved through his weapons fire. It twisted and turned in ways that should have been impossible. Its armor absorbed hits that should have destroyed it, and all the time it kept coming closer. "What is that thing?" whispered his first officer. Krethoval did not answer. He was busy calculating his options. He could not fight. He could not run. His jump drive needed 10 minutes to charge and he would be dead in 2. There was only one choice left. "Open a channel," he said. "I surrender. Tell them I surrender." The communication officer obeyed. A moment later, a human face appeared on the main screen. It was a woman with gray hair and cold eyes. A scar ran down her face. She looked at Krethoval the way a predator looks at prey. "I am Overseer Krethoval," he said quickly. "I surrender my ship and my crew. Under galactic law, you must accept and treat us as prisoners." The human woman stared at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was the most terrifying expression Krethoval had ever seen. "Galactic law," she said softly. "You want to talk about galactic law?" She leaned forward. "Did you follow galactic law when you burned New Meridian? Did you follow galactic law when you put children in chains? Did you follow galactic law when you beat my people for crying too loudly?" Krethoval's legs trembled. "I am a businessman. I follow the traditions of my species. Slavery is legal in Velkari space." "You are not in Velkari space," the woman said. "You are in my space now. And in my space, there is only one law." She stood up. Behind her, Krethoval could see human soldiers in black armor checking their weapons. "You took our people," she said. "We take them back. That is the law." The screen went dark. 2 minutes later, the human ship attached itself to the Chains of Prosperity like a parasite attaching to a host. Krethoval heard the sounds of cutting tools breaking through his hull. He gathered his crew in the main corridor and waited. They were armed with the best weapons Velkari money could buy. It did not matter. The humans came through the breach like demons from an old nightmare. They moved fast, faster than any species Krethoval had ever seen. Their weapons made no sound, but Velkari died wherever the humans pointed them. His crew fired back, but the human armor stopped everything. Krethoval ran. He ran through corridors he had walked 1,000 times. He heard screaming behind him, Velkari screaming, begging, dying. The sounds followed him like ghosts. He reached the slave holds. 200 humans looked at him through the bars of their cages. They were thin and dirty and afraid. Some of them still had burns from the attack on their colony. Many of the children had stopped crying days ago. They just stared with empty eyes. Krethoval grabbed the nearest cage. Inside was a small human girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old. He pulled her out and held a knife to her throat. "Stay back!" he screamed as the human soldiers appeared at the end of the corridor. "Stay back or I kill her!" The soldiers stopped. The woman with the scar stepped forward. She looked at Krethoval. She looked at the child. Her face showed no expression. "Let her go," she said calmly. "No, you will let me leave, or I will cut her throat. I know you humans are soft. I know you care about your young. So back away and let me reach the escape pods." The woman did not move. She just stared at him with those cold eyes. "You have 3 seconds," she said. "You are bluffing. You will not risk this child's life." 1. Krethoval pressed the knife harder against the girl's skin. A thin line of red appeared. The girl whimpered. 2. "I will do it. I swear I will do it." 3. Something hit Krethoval's arm. He did not see what it was. He did not feel any pain. He just watched as his claw, still holding the knife, fell to the ground. Then the pain came, and he screamed. The human woman was in front of him now. He had not seen her move. She caught the little girl as Kraithvol dropped her. She handed the child to another soldier, who carried her away gently. Then she turned back to Kraithvol. "You should not have done that," she said. What happened next took a long time. Kraithvol screamed until his voice gave out. He begged until he had no words left. The human woman did not hurry. She wanted him to understand exactly what was happening and why. When she was finally done, she set up a camera. "You are going to send a message," she said. "You are going to tell everyone who traffics in human lives what will happen to them. You are going to tell them that we are coming." Kraithvol looked at the camera with his one remaining eye. His body was broken. His mind was shattered. But he understood now. He finally understood. Humans were not prey. They had never been prey. They were something far worse. He spoke the words the woman told him to speak. He confessed to every crime. He named every buyer and seller he knew. He begged the galaxy to listen, to understand, to stop taking humans before it was too late. When the message was complete, the woman leaned close to his ear. "My daughter's name was Elena," she whispered. "She was 8 years old when your kind took her. I never found her. I never learned what happened to her." She stood up. "But I found you." Kraithvol died slowly, surrounded by the empty cages that had held his victims. The 200 humans he had stolen watched him die. None of them looked away. When it was over, the human woman turned to the freed captives. Her cold eyes softened. Her voice became gentle. "You are safe now," she said. "We are taking you home." A child started crying, then another. Then adults joined them. They cried not from sadness, but from relief. Someone had come for them. After everything they had been told, after all the times they had been told that no one cared about humans, someone had come. Captain Mira Vance gathered the little girl she had saved and held her close. The child clung to her, shaking. "It is okay," Mira said softly. "The monsters cannot hurt you anymore." She looked at her crew. They were covered in Velkhari blood, but their eyes were clear. They had done their duty. They had brought their people home. "Let us go," she said. The Eventide detached from the dead slave ship and disappeared into the darkness, carrying its precious cargo toward safety. Behind it, the chains of prosperity drifted empty among the asteroids, a tomb for those who had thought humans were easy prey. The message Kraithvol had recorded was already spreading across the galaxy. By morning, every slaver and pirate and criminal who dealt in human lives would know what had happened here. The price of ignorance had been paid, and this was only the beginning. The video spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, every major news network had a copy. Within days, it had been translated into 100 alien languages. Within a week, there was not a single civilized world that had not seen Overseer Kraithvol's final confession. The galaxy watched a dying Velkhari slaver describe what humans had done to his fleet. They saw his missing eye, his broken claws, the wounds that covered his shell. They heard him list the names of every criminal he had worked with. They heard him beg the galaxy to stop taking human captives before it was too late. And they wondered, what kind of species could do this? On 1,000 worlds, slavers looked at their human cargo and felt afraid for the first time in their lives. The price of human slaves dropped overnight. Many traders simply released their captives, unwilling to risk attracting attention from whatever had killed Kraithvol. Some fled to the most distant corners of space, hoping to hide. It did not help. Over the next 3 months, 12 more slave ships that carried human captives were destroyed. No survivors, no witnesses, just empty wreckage drifting in space, and freed humans telling stories of soldiers in black armor who appeared from nowhere and disappeared just as quickly. The Hegemony Council met in emergency session on the great station at the center of the galaxy. 12 species sent their most important representatives. They sat in a circular chamber beneath a dome of crystal that showed the stars above them. They had ruled this galaxy for thousands of years. They had never faced anything like this. The Velkhari ambassador spoke first. His name was Krathmol, and he was very angry. "This is an act of war," he shouted, his claws clicking against the stone floor. Humans have attacked our ships. They have murdered our citizens. They have violated every treaty we have ever signed. He pointed at the human delegation, a small group sitting quietly in their designated area. We demand justice. We demand reparations. We demand that the human species be punished for these crimes. The other ambassadors murmured among themselves. Some nodded in agreement. Others looked thoughtful. A few glanced at the humans with expressions that might have been curiosity. The human ambassador rose to speak. His name was Chen Wei, and he had spent 40 years in diplomatic service. He was old and tired and very good at his job. The Hegemony Council has my deepest sympathies, he said in a calm voice. The deaths of Velkari citizens are a tragedy. Any loss of life diminishes us all. He spread his hands in a gesture of helplessness. But I must be honest with the Council. The government of Earth has no knowledge of these attacks. We have no record of any military vessels in the regions where these incidents occurred. We have no organization called the Reclaimers. Krathmul hissed with fury. Lies! Everyone knows humans are responsible. With respect, Chen Wei replied smoothly. Knowledge and proof are different things. The Council has seen a video of a dying slaver making accusations against humans. But the video shows no human faces. It shows no human ships. It shows only the words of a criminal who had every reason to blame others for his own failures. He paused and looked around the chamber. Perhaps these were mercenaries from another species pretending to be human? Perhaps they were pirates who saw an opportunity to create chaos? Perhaps the video was created by enemies of the Velkari who wished to damage their reputation. The other ambassadors considered this. It was possible. Unlikely, but possible. And without proof, the Council could not act. Furthermore, Chen Wei continued, I must point out that the Velkari were engaged in illegal activity when they were attacked. Slavery is banned in hegemony space. The humans aboard those ships were citizens of Earth, kidnapped from their homes in violation of multiple treaties. He let that sink in. Perhaps the Council should investigate how the Velkari were able to conduct slave raids in hegemony territory for so long without anyone noticing. Perhaps the Council should ask why no one protected human colonists from these attacks. The chamber went silent. Several ambassadors shifted uncomfortably. They all knew the truth. They had allowed the Velkari to take human slaves because humans were not important, because no one cared what happened to them. Now someone cared. And that someone had weapons that could destroy 3 ships in 30 seconds. After 3 days of debate, the Council reached a decision. There would be no punishment for humanity. There would be no investigation into the attacks. The matter would be officially forgotten. But unofficially, everything changed. The elder species began watching humans more carefully. They analyzed every human ship that passed through their space. They studied human technology, looking for signs of advancement. They reviewed 300 years of data, searching for anything they might have missed. What they found worried them. Humans were everywhere. They traded on thousands of worlds. They worked in industries across the galaxy. They had access to almost every type of technology the hegemony used, and no one had ever thought to watch them closely, because no one had ever thought they mattered. The Trivine, a species of insectoid mathematicians, calculated how many humans lived in hegemony space. The number was larger than anyone had expected. Over the past 3 centuries, humanity had spread quietly across the galaxy like seeds carried by the wind. The Morgath, a species of predators who respected strength, began treating human diplomats with new courtesy. They sent gifts and invitations and offers of friendship. They did not know what humans were capable of, but they had seen the video. They had seen what happened to those who threatened human children. They did not want to find out what would happen to those who threatened human worlds. Even the proud Velkari changed their behavior. They stopped raiding human colonies. They released the human slaves they still held. They pretended it was a gesture of goodwill, a sign of their commitment to peace. Everyone knew the truth. They were afraid. On Earth, the Secret Council met again. They watched recordings of the Hegemony Council session. They analyzed the changed behavior of the elder species. They discussed what it all meant. They are scared, said one general. For the first time in 300 years, they see us as a threat. That is dangerous, said another. Scared enemies are unpredictable. They might decide to destroy us before we become too powerful. The chairman of the council, an old woman who had held her position for 30 years, shook her head. They will not attack. Not yet. They do not know what we can do. They do not know how strong we have become, and they are afraid to find out. She looked around the table. The plan is working. For 3 centuries, we have hidden in plain sight. We have let them think we were weak while we grew strong. Now they suspect the truth, but they cannot prove it. They cannot act against us without risking a war they might lose. So what do we do now? Someone asked. The chairman smiled. It was the same cold smile Captain Mira Vance had shown Krethval in his final moments. We continue to wait. We continue to prepare. We continue to free our people when they are taken. And we let the galaxy wonder what we are truly capable of. She stood and walked to a window that showed the Earth below them, blue and green and beautiful. One day we will not need to hide anymore. One day we will take our place among the stars as equals, not as servants. But that day is not today. Today we are still the quiet ones, the patient ones, the ones who remember every wrong done to us. Her eyes hardened. Let them wonder. Let them worry. Let them look at every human they meet and ask themselves if this is the one who will come for them in the night. Far away on a space station called Kepler, at the edge of human territory, Captain Mira Vance received new orders. Another slaver fleet had been spotted. More human captives needed rescuing. She gathered her crew and prepared the Eventide for another mission. The galaxy was finally learning to fear humanity. But the lesson was not yet complete. There were still debts to collect. There were still names on the list. And humans had very long memories. 6 months after the death of Overseer Krethval, Captain Mira Vance sat alone in a bar on Kepler Station. The bar was called The Last Light, and it was a place where humans came to forget their troubles. The walls were covered with photographs of Earth, blue oceans, green forests, mountains covered in snow, places most of the people here had never seen with their own eyes. Mira sat in a corner booth with a glass of whiskey she had not touched. The Eventide was in dock for repairs after their latest mission. 6 more slavers destroyed. 400 more humans brought home. The crew had earned some rest, but Mira could not rest. She never could. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Elena's face, her daughter, frozen forever at 8 years old in her memory. Mira had searched for 12 years. She had interrogated hundreds of slavers. She had followed thousands of leads. Nothing. Maybe Elena was dead. Maybe she was alive somewhere, grown up, not remembering the mother who had never stopped looking for her. Maybe she was still in chains, suffering in some corner of the galaxy Mira had not yet reached. Not knowing was the worst part. The door to the bar opened and the room went silent. Mira looked up and saw something she had never expected to see. A Velkari was walking into a human bar. The alien was smaller than most of his kind. His shell was pale, almost white, and he moved carefully like someone who knew he was not welcome. He held his claws pressed tight against his body, a gesture of peace among his species. Several humans reached for weapons. The bartender reached for a club hidden beneath the counter. The hatred in the room was thick enough to taste. The Velkari raised his claws higher. "Please," he said in accented but clear human speech. "I mean no harm. I am looking for someone." His eyes scanned the room and stopped on Mira. He walked toward her booth slowly, making no sudden movements. "Captain Vance," he said, "may I sit? I have come a very long way to speak with you." Mira studied him. He did not look like a warrior or a slaver. He looked like what humans would call an intellectual, a teacher or a researcher. "How do you know my name?" she asked. "Everyone knows your name," he said. "You are the one who killed Krethval. You are the ghost who haunts my people's nightmares." He gestured at the empty seat across from her. "Please, I have questions. I think you are the only one who can answer them." Mira nodded slowly. The Velkari sat down, folding his legs beneath him in a way that looked uncomfortable. "My name is Thelvos," he said. "I am a scholar. I have spent my life studying other species, trying to understand how they think and why they act as they do." He looked at Mira with eyes that held no anger, only curiosity. "I came here to ask you one question. Why did your species pretend to be weak?" Mira took a sip of her whiskey. It burned going down. "What makes you think we were pretending?" "Please, Captain, I am not a fool. I have reviewed the evidence. Your ship used weapons technology that should not exist for another 1,000 years of human development. Your soldiers moved faster and fought better than any species in the hegemony. Your tactics showed centuries of planning and preparation. He leaned forward. Humans did not develop this capability overnight. You have been hiding your true strength for a very long time. I want to know why. Mira was silent for a moment. She thought about lying. She thought about killing this alien and dumping his body in space. But something in his eyes stopped her. He did not look at her with hatred or fear. He looked at her with genuine curiosity, like a scientist examining a puzzle he could not solve. You really want to know, she said. More than anything. Mira set down her glass. 300 years ago, when we first met the hegemony, we learned something important. In the entire history of our species, whenever a weaker civilization met a stronger one, the weaker civilization was destroyed. Sometimes through war, sometimes through trade. Sometimes the weaker people just forgot who they were and became copies of the stronger ones. She looked at the photographs of Earth on the walls. We did not want that to happen to us. We did not want to lose what makes us human. So we made a choice. We would play the game the hegemony expected us to play. We would act weak and harmless. And while we did that, we would grow strong in secret. But why? Thelvos asked. Why not simply join the hegemony as equals? Why not share your technology and work together? Because you would never have seen us as equals, Mira said flatly. Your people, the other elder species, you have ruled this galaxy for thousands of years. You look at younger species and see children, or pets, or prey. You would never have respected us if we had simply asked for respect. She finished her whiskey and signaled the bartender for another. So we waited. We suffered. We let our people be taken and killed and sold. And every single wrong done to us was recorded. Every name, every ship, every world where human blood was spilled. We remembered everything. And now, Thelvos asked quietly, now we are strong enough to make you pay. The bartender brought another glass. Mira did not drink it. She just stared at the amber liquid. What does humanity want? Thelvos asked. If you have the power to destroy us, why have you not done so? Mira looked up at him. For a moment her cold eyes softened. We do not want to destroy anyone. We just want to be left alone. We want to trade fairly. We want to explore and grow and build. And most importantly, her voice hardened again, we want our people to be safe. We want slavers and pirates and anyone else who thinks humans are easy targets to understand that hurting us has consequences. And if we stop taking your people, if we treat you fairly, if we respect your territory, Mira shrugged. Then maybe in a few generations we will forgive. Humans are good at forgiving when we choose to be. We are also good at holding grudges. It depends on what you give us. Thelvos nodded slowly. He seemed to be processing everything she had told him. What if we cannot stop? He asked. What if there are those among my people, among other species, who refuse to change? Who continue to see humans as prey? Mira smiled. It was not a nice smile. Then the galaxy will learn what humans do to those who harm their children. What we did to Krethval was mercy compared to what we are capable of. What comes next will not be quick. It will not be clean. It will be the kind of vengeance that lasts for generations. She leaned forward. Tell your people, Thelvos. Tell everyone who will listen. We did not survive 300 years of abuse by being forgiving. We survived by remembering, and our memory is very, very long. Thelvos stood. He bowed slightly, a gesture of respect he would never have shown a human 6 months ago. Thank you for your honesty, Captain. I will carry your message to those who need to hear it. He turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing. The child you search for. Your daughter. Mira went very still. What do you know about her? Nothing certain, but I have access to old records. Slave manifests that were never meant to be seen. If you give me her name, I will look. For a long moment, Mira could not speak. 12 years of searching. 12 years of hope that faded a little more each day. And now this alien, this enemy, was offering to help. Elena, she said finally. Her name is Elena Vance. She was 8 years old. She had brown hair and green eyes and a birthmark on her left shoulder shaped like a star. Thelvos memorized every word. I will search. I cannot promise I will find anything, but I will try. He left the bar. The room slowly returned to normal. Humans went back to their drinks and their conversations. But something had changed. For the first time, a member of the species that had caused humanity so much pain had shown respect, had offered help. Maybe there was hope for the galaxy after all. Mira finished her second drink and stood. The eventide was waiting. There were new coordinates in her messages. Another slaver fleet. Another group of humans who needed saving. She walked through the station to the docking bay. Her crew was already aboard, running final checks. They looked at her with eyes that held the same cold determination she felt in her own heart. Where to, Captain? Torres asked. Mira sat in her command chair and looked at the stars displayed on the main screen. Somewhere out there, humans were suffering. Somewhere out there, aliens still thought they could hurt humanity without consequences. They were wrong. They were all wrong. Take us out, she said. We have work to do. The eventide rose from the dock, engaged its engines, and disappeared into the black. Within seconds, it was invisible, just another ghost in the endless darkness of space. Behind it, Kepler Station continued its slow orbit around a distant sun. Inside the station, humans lived and worked and dreamed of a future where they would no longer need to hide. That future was coming, one freed captive at a time. One dead slaver at a time, one lesson at a time. The galaxy had spent 300 years teaching humanity that they were weak and worthless and alone. Now humanity was teaching the galaxy a different lesson. Some prey bites back, some victims become hunters, and some species, when pushed far enough, become something the universe has never seen before. The humans were awake now, and they remembered everything. In the darkness between stars, the eventide flew on, carrying its cargo of anger and hope and determination. Its crew watched their screens and checked their weapons, and waited for the moment when they would decloak again. Somewhere ahead, someone was about to learn the price of ignorance, and that price would be paid in stardust and blood.